Joel, you're promoting here in Middleburg. You're promoting Boy Erased here. Your I think second directorial effort.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, how did this book come onto your radar?
Well, it was sort of the tectonic plates of people in my world who like agents and managers and whatever. My agent had left and went to anonymous content. And I've been a big fan of anonymous content for a long time. They were the first people to take an interest in a screenplay that I'd written. I'm talking like 2005 or 6, something that never ended up getting made. But you know, Anonymous plays Steve Golan. He gets good material. He options books, and they produce what I think are really interesting movies. And so when my agent went there, the first thing that they did, Anonymous, was hand me Boy Erased. And normally, I have to admit, I don't read things very quickly. Things sit there for a while. I find it very hard to multitask because I'm working on a movie or whatever. But they were unaware of the fact that I grew up with like deep fear of institutions and fascination as I got older, interested in movies as a watcher and a maker or an actor with like prison movies and anything to do with institutions. So I was like, oh, gay converse therapy, I've heard a little bit about this. And so my morbid curiosity led me to read it. And then I became obsessed after putting the book down with the idea that someone had to make a movie about it and I maybe could help produce it or do that. And I started making moves every day towards doing something about it, meeting with other survivors of converse therapy. Well, first thing I met Garrett in the cafe and talked about it. And then I just found myself being dragged along by it. Like I cannot say with complete honesty, I've never had a project pick me like this project picked me. Like I try and get into other people's projects. I try and pick projects. This thing like pick me up and drag me along.
So one of the most interesting things about the movie, and I think you kind of touched on this with how you were talking about, you know, the fear of institutionalization, which is a fear I seldom share. There at certain points in that movie, especially like when the whole scenes with Cameron, the character of Cameron, and your character abusing him, and also when Lucas Hedges flips out essentially and tries to get his mother in there. It had that horror movie. It felt like a horror movie at those points. Was that an intentional sort of motif that you tried to play that in?
Yeah, you know, like having made The Gift and being such a fan of suspense movies and horror movies, you know, I felt like in many ways, while Boy Erased wasn't going to have the jump scares or the kind of horror suspense tropes that The Gift had, that in many ways Boy Erased was going to be a scarier movie than The Gift for not everybody, but for many people, because it was, you know, a real life fear-based situation. That it's the experience that some people really have. And for that reason, that there's, even as if it's more subtle in its rendering, there is something deeply fearful about a lot of the sequences and scenes in that movie. The potential, for example, in the bathroom scene with Flea and Lucas Hedges, that some deeper abuse might happen. And of course there are some scenes in there that would probably be, well, at least one of the scenes with Joe Alwyn and Lucas, maybe the hardest scene I've ever had to shoot, you know, and may always be the hardest scene I'll ever have to shoot. So there's definitely one of my, definitely part of my receptors were always thinking about the horror elements of experiencing what Garrett went through.
You know, one of the interesting things is I find it very interesting that Nicole McKinnon's in this movie, because she's someone who's had her own. She's very public about the fact that she is a Catholic, but she's also a very progressive person. And I'm wondering, and so like this movie just seemed like right up her alley to play this kind of character.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, did any of the cast bring their own experiences with faith into their performances, or do you know of any at least?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did. I was raised Catholic, and I had my own fear-based relationship with God, and I could really draw on that. I mean, definitely Nicole, I remember an early conversation, and I never really probed any further, but I think, she has a Catholic base, but also I think in her first marriage, she was involved, at least in some way by association, with a very different kind of religion. And talking about choices of extracting oneself or redesigning one's opinion and faith kind of structure. There's perhaps something in Nicole's past that, in that sense, that drew her to this material. As I said, I never probed any further. I feel like, that's her choice and that's her private stuff. But yeah, I think a lot of people, whether it was faith-based or just opinion-based and just on a humanitarian level, were motivated very quickly to get involved in this project. And I'm talking not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera in terms of our representation and support we had from the LGBTQ community of like practitioners at the highest level, and costume designers and our first AD and all these wonderful people who were just like, I want to help tell this story.
Is that how cast members like Troy Sivan and Xavier Dolan ended up in this?
Yeah, and Cherry Jones.
And Cherry Jones, yes.
Great advocates and heroes in their own way. It's interesting that, acting is considered an art form or part of the artistic community, actors are, and yet there's still this great as in big culture of suppression of sexuality, fear of coming out because of the fear of being judged by an audience and limiting your audience. And so, you find, not a lot of actors out there are out, and yet people like Troy and Xavier in their artistic expression are very much, heroes and advocates. And knowing that I loved Xavier's performances in his own movies, and having met him when he was considering me maybe as an actor for a project of his, I thought, well, I could drag him into work for me. and Carmen Cuba threw the idea of Troy Sivan in front of me, and I was like, I knew of him as an Australian, burgeoning pop star. And then his audition tape that they sent me, I was like, wow, this guy needs to be in this movie too, and just purely on a representational and advocate front, it was just an added bonus that I had those people in the film.
I'm curious, going back to when you were first reading the book, and it may not be something that actually made it into the movie, but what part or aspect of reparative therapy, other than the core concept, did you personally find the most appalling or disturbing?
What was interesting in my research, I met with a number of survivors of other therapies, and recently after making the film, I met with some survivors in Australia, which I want to acknowledge it's going on in my country as well. I kept asking people, like, what did you find the most upsetting or damaging thing? Because I had my own opinions about how absurd things were or how cruel things were. There was something that Lucas's character avoided, that Garrett avoided, because he broke out, he busted out. But the moral inventory of having to get up and talk out loud about your indiscretions, same-sex indiscretions or actions, as if it was like an Alcoholics Anonymous sort of, they're like, I drank a bottle of whiskey and I beat my wife. It's like same-sex, as they called them, indiscretions were sins. Having to get up and say those things out loud You know, I've never had to stand up and go, oh, in the bedroom I did this. You know, like, oh, that's my private world, and it should be their private world. But they would do that as a public forum at the end of the program with parents in the room and encourage the parents to stand up and shame the children. I couldn't put it in the movie because Lucas's character luckily escaped before that happened. The other thing, and we do put it in the movie, is that the creation of a safe space to share your experiences and say, okay, we're all here, we're all of the same mind, let's all create a safe space and we can talk about these things out loud. And then the use of that information as shaming device in another therapy, I think is abhorrent. So for all the physical torture that exists in other places, and even the exorcism that we portray in the film, and the practice of a fake funeral, which I think is just fucking diabolical. The ideas that are fed to people, the false hope that is fed to people, I think is like a seed that sometimes grows into a weed of sorts that leads to very dark things, and the darkest of which I think is clearly suicide. Many people who have been in conversion therapy and love in action, in fact, and no longer walking on the earth because of those ideas.
So one last thing I wanted to ask you about is, so what I thought was so interesting about your point of view that you approach the movie, and obviously set from Garrett's book, is it doesn't look down on people of faith. It's very easy for for projects like this that deal with these type of issues to just sort of be dismissive or caricature them. But that doesn't, and this feels like a movie that's also meant to speak to everyone, but really speak to people of faith who might have these preconceived notions about homosexuality and things like that. I'm wondering, how do you believe that you could convince? Because of course, right now everybody is so entrenched in their own belief system, in terms of what they believe, and they usually get their information from sources that only validate their own viewpoint. How do you see being able to convince people to see a film that might challenge them like this?
It's tough. It's a great. If anyone can work out the ingredients to solve that problem, how to navigate that issue, it would be so fantastic. The idea that you could get people to watch movies that they don't want to watch, as in, no doubt there's an audience willing and waiting and desperate for this movie to come out, but those people already are convinced, like me, that conversion therapy is a sham and needs to be stopped. How do you get the other people to watch it? I mean, I only watch Fox News if there are clips that I know are going to throw wood on the fire of my kind of feelings about their backwards politics and point of view of promoting stupidity. And people watch their news channels, like you say. I watch different things. Some red state people are going to lap up Fox and Friends and all that nonsense. But so what if I could go on shows like that? I mean, what if as part of promotion I could find myself on the right kind of wrong TV stations or in the right kind of wrong newspapers and magazines. That could be at least some way, even if it made people curious enough to go, what is this, stupid Australian guy, I think he knows, and what's he going to say about religion? If I could even trick people in some ways or make them curious enough to come into the cinema, maybe, just maybe, they'll see that we're not throwing God under a bus, we're not attacking religion, we're just trying to shine light on a practice that I think is backwards. The other option is it's really a film for parents to as a roadmap to kind of see how one family dealt with a situation and maybe see a way forward in the future. If they're ever going to have to deal with it, they feel like that subject's blooming in their house, it's come down already in their house, or they're lo and behold, currently have a child that's going through some kind of program akin to what Garrett went through. Then what if they can identify with Nicole and Russell's characters and go, well, maybe I'm going to re-examine this, maybe I'm going to re-examine my point of view, I'm going to do some more research. That's cool. So there's a number of ways I think the film can help, and even simply purely as an identifier for young people who need movies like this when they're 14, 15, 16, if they're going through the concept of coming out or dealing with the persecution based on something they have no control over and they're being judged for.
Well, Joel, thank you so much for talking with us, and we wish you all the best during the sports season. It's a fantastic movie, and I really hope that you pick up some good hardware for this.
Thank you. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.